Hello, and welcome to the Business of NIL and College Athletics. I'm Emily Baker, founder and CEO of Portman Square Group and chair of the Boise Metro Chamber Board of Directors. This virtual event, in partnership with Boise State Athletics, is designed to educate chamber members on the new NIL, name, image, and likeness, opportunity in college athletics, and to also highlight how Boise State is engaging in this space to the benefit of local businesses and student athletes. This virtual event is made possible by presenting sponsor Alaska Airlines and sponsored by Albertsons and ESI, Engineered Structures, Inc. Here's a short commercial from our presenting sponsor, Alaska Airlines.
Let's go. Get ready for it. Get ready for it. Get ready for it. Yeah, this is it. Go! 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 Yeah, this is it. Go! Let's go! Yeah, this is it. Yeah, it's about to break. Got what it's gonna take. Go ahead and on that stage. Let's go. Get ready for it. Get ready for it. Get ready for it. This is yeah, this is it. Go! 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 Yeah, this is it. Go! Let's go! This is it.
Other than the Oxford, Mississippi Chamber, the Boise Metro Chamber is the only one in the country to see NIL as an important issue for our local university's athletics program and the many businesses we serve. The recent NIL legislation allows businesses and individuals to leverage the marketability and influence of collegiate student athletes and create mutually beneficial business relationships. Boise State Athletics NIL program has recently been recognized as the best in the nation, above other universities including Michigan, Oklahoma State, Ohio State, Auburn, and Arkansas. We are looking forward to peeling back the curtain to highlight what's made their program so innovative and the most student-athlete friendly in the country. We're joined today by Jeremiah Dickey, Boise State's Director of Athletics, and Mike Walsh, the Associate Athletic Director for Strategic Communications and Business Development. And just in a way of quick introductions, gentlemen, Jeremiah just landed in Boise about 16 months ago by way of leadership roles at the University of Texas at El Paso, University of Akron, University of Houston, and the most recently Baylor, where he was the Associate Vice President of Athletics. Jeremiah has been busy shattering records and building a cast of superstar leaders in the athletics staff. Mike Walsh has a history in strategic communications and external relations, having served in various roles over his 10 years at different stints in Boise State, 2 years at University of Idaho, and Mike now manages the in-house NIL program. So, gentlemen, how did we get here? Can you give our audience an understanding of the NIL program and how it came about?
Yes. So early in 2000, there were a number of cases and lawsuits that were brought from an NCAA standpoint that really started this train. And I believe it was 2009, the Ed O'Bannon case, that it rose for us from an industry standpoint. Now, during that time, we all knew from an industry standpoint that we would get to this place. It took probably a lot longer than we thought, but from an institutional standpoint, we could see this coming, and knowing what the NCAA was thinking around the name, image, and likeness space, it allowed us to really be innovative and create something that was going to be student athlete friendly and still keep in mind our purpose, which is to serve our student athletes. And so there obviously are a lot of moving pieces to this. Not everything has been defined fully, but one of our mottos in the department is to define expectations or they'll be defined for you. And we've really embraced that and moved our name, image, and likeness program forward.
I love that. So how is Boise State navigating these new NIL rules?
So one, when I first arrived, and there was a lot going on at that point in time, but when I first arrived, I was really grateful for our team because of how they were thinking about this space. We knew that there was going to be a timeline, and at some point the NCAA was going to allow this. And so we really tried to position ourselves to be the first to do name, image, and likeness, so we could hit the ground running. And so that July of my first 6 months here, July 1st, we were able to move forward with name, image, and likeness. Prior to that, we had set up systems that allowed us to navigate this space and really control as much of the process as possible. There's a lot of compliance and other regulations and rules that we have to follow. And it was a priority that we not just did it, but that we did it the right way. And it really allowed us to get a head start and create a program that through Mike and other team members that we have at Boise State, it allowed us to create a program that others are now looking at and potentially following as we move forward.
Mike, you were another architect in this plan. Can you talk a little bit about how the program was designed and your major goals for the program?
Yeah, absolutely. It goes back, for us, really diligently working on it goes all the way back to the early days of the pandemic. We were sitting at home, no sports happening, and a couple of us kind of got together and said, what's going to be different when we come back, right? When things come back to normal, what will be different? And as Jeremiah mentioned, it had been about a decade of talking about NIL and what that could look like in the college space. And so that was something we really honed in on and focused on, okay, if legislation goes one of a few ways, what can we do? How could we do it different? How can we do it to the best of our abilities? And so it gave us a pretty good head start. We were able to put together some ideas and concepts about what it could look like, all the way up to us having an incredible amount of involvement in how we would manage that and how we would really be hands-on with it. And so by the time everything started to be put in place by the NCAA, and then the Alston Supreme Court case was a huge piece of what led to the lack of guidelines from the NCAA at this point, there were a lot of states that started to come forward and push the envelope and make their own laws and create change. And the state of Idaho did not have a state law on the books, nor do we now. And so it allowed us to just follow what the NCAA's model was. And so by that time, so many schools had made the decision to be pretty restrictive as far as school involvement and institutional marks and things like that. And we kind of went the other direction. We were pretty aggressive and said, if the two rules the NCAA is going to have is that you have to do something in exchange for the compensation and that it can't be an inducement to come to school, we can work within those. And so we set out with an outside law firm that we were very fortunate to work with, who has a lot of experience in this space and a lot of really helpful people in the community to figure out what can this look like at Boise State, how can we do it best, and how can we serve our student athletes. From the beginning, the North Star was to create the most student athlete friendly program in the country, and we're pretty confident we've done that with the number of resources and tools that we're giving them beyond just education and saying that we're going to help them understand how to do this. We're actually helping them do it. There's a big difference between the hands-on help that we're being able to provide.
I love that. Can you talk about how this, and expand a little bit on the conference realignment and the impact of the transfer portals and how NIL factors into this?
Well, it's a very loaded question in regards to how our industry is currently operating. We have a lot of balls in the air, and we are trying to navigate it better than anyone else. And so when you look at name, image, and likeness and transfer portal and Alston, it's very important. Everything that I just mentioned ties into the student athlete experience and how we are serving and treating our student athletes. And so everything we've done in our new innovation team and with our name, image, and likeness programming is impactful to the story that we're telling publicly and how that ties into our national brand, what we represent, and in turn, conference realignment. There are obviously a lot of other institutions that are vying for positions, and we are going to control what we can control, and we are going to keep the student athlete experience a priority in that. And ultimately, by doing that, we will best position ourselves for whatever ends up happening.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and the way we've seen it kind of play itself out is an opportunity to say, not only with the award that you mentioned, but that we're doing it better, but we have some very hands-on experience to say this is what we've done. This is how, when a recruit comes to campus or when one of our coaches is speaking to recruits about what NIL is and how it's impacting the landscape of college athletics, we're able to really confidently tell them that we are doing it better, and we're doing it better because we're giving you every opportunity to succeed, and we're giving you, while you're in this controlled environment, the tools that you need and the resources to learn. learn about how to do taxes, learn about how to budget, learn about how to do financial management with the money that is coming in, and learn how to, brand building has become such a sort of buzzword, but at the end of the day, learning what that really means and learning how to position yourself to say to a local business, you would be better off working with me and here's why, and to be confident about that message that you're sending. And what I say to a lot of the athletes we talk to is that we're fortunate at Boise State that we've been doing brand building for 35, 40 years if you look at the blue turf, right? I mean, it's what we know, it's what we've been doing for a very long time. We have a lot of people that are good at it and specialize in it. So that's our foundation. We didn't have to go learn about brand building once NIL became real to our lives. We've been doing that. We're able to build on top of that by having me manage a lot of our athletes, and I represent as many as who want to be represented. One of the things that sets us apart is the in-house group license agreement that we have, which allows student athletes to opt in without a middleman. And we've invested in that. It's something that we've taken very seriously because we know it can not only help us bring a higher caliber athlete here and position us within the industry, but also because our athletes promoting products and being out in the community is further promoting our brand. And so we take 0% commission on these deals that we do. It's an investment that Jeremiah and his team decided to make when we brought this opportunity forward. And it's something we're really excited about that gives a real leg up to everybody who's trying to sort of navigate what NIL is. They know that if they talk to us, that we've got their best interests in mind and that we can help them navigate through it at no personal stake for us.
I love the way you're looking at this holistically, that knowing the success of our student athletes really is the success of the program and the success of Boise State. Could you talk to us a little bit about how would a local business go about getting involved in this program, and what does that look like in thinking about the benefits of working with a student athlete to promote their brand or their product?
So the first couple steps, they can either visit broncosports.com/NIL. There's a lot of information there, and there's a way to sign up for our portal. That, again, another just kind of talking about how we do things a little bit differently. There's a handful of schools that have a similar platform. But for us, if you sign up, I'm going to reach out to you. I'm going to have that direct connection, and that's what's different about the way we're handling NIL than most of the schools across the country. And we're going to have that conversation, and I'm going to start to drill down on how do you advertise? Who do you try to reach? What are you trying to break into? Do you have a certain demographic? Are there interests or characteristics about your business that can tie to an athlete that I know personally and have worked with, and has maybe hobbies outside of their sport or some things that may not be obvious to the eye? Are you looking for somebody to be on camera versus be in a photo shoot? Very different things as far as a skill set with an athlete that we'd be looking for to be a good ambassador. But the biggest thing is that our student athletes at Boise State are very well known. They're very well known in their hometowns, which could be a big opportunity for a lot of them. And they're very well known here because we are the pro sports program here, if you will. And so we have the visibility for our student athletes that so many of the businesses likely crave to reach a demographic that's important to them. And we have a lot of student athletes who are very, very good at engaging with the community and bringing a younger demographic with them because of either youth sports involvement or staying after games to sign autographs for our younger fans, and everything that comes with that, and the attachment that our student athletes have within this community.
I love that. So to clarify, these student athletes that are participating in these activities, they're not getting paid by the institution, not by Boise State, and that you are helping them do deals directly with those businesses. Could you talk a little bit more about your Office of Business Innovation, sort of how that works with our local businesses?
Yeah, so we're here to help kind of define, there's equity in Boise State athletics. We've known that for a long time. We have a sponsorship group that does a great job of identifying much of that. There is a new asset class when it comes to the student athletes, and it's something that's been untapped. And there's ways to work alongside our sponsorship group to include IP and the marks and logos that go with that, but there's now opportunities that don't rise to the level of using a Boise State logo, but rather using the notoriety of an athlete or even their social media following specifically, right? And so there's a lot of ways that we can tap into the influence and marketability that our student athletes bring to a local business. We as my group, we work together with the athletes and with local businesses to really find the matches and figure out who's going to help and who's again, it's back to the questions for the business. What's your goal, right? What's your goal with advertising, with maybe tying yourself to an athlete? What are you trying to achieve? And from there, we really kind of drill down on what maybe some of the right athletes are for them and who would work best. But I think Jeremiah could probably speak better to the business development unit as a whole and kind of what we're supposed to do to drive the department forward too, in the kind of the industry where it's at right now.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at and Walsh mentioned it earlier, the blue turf. We are an institution founded off innovation, and we were a top 50 innovative institution this past year, and that's a testament to our teammates on campus. We have just tried to take that and maybe do it a little bit different as we move forward and really try to dig in and create opportunities that maybe others aren't thinking about. And so by creating this team and with his leadership, and he is my expert in this space, it allows us to think differently than what other institutions are doing. College athletics is changing by the hour. Every day I see something new that spawns some new idea for us in how we can maybe take advantage of it or create something for our student athletes, our coaches, our staff to help us best serve in this community and continue to be the front porch of Idaho. And so by creating that space and being able to dig in not only to name, image, and likeness in Alston, but cryptocurrencies and virtual and augmented reality and some things that now others are copying is a testament to my team, and I can't say enough about them. You know, they have no blinders on in terms of my expectations from a department standpoint of we are going to be relentless in finding new and creative ways for us to connect with our community. We've always had community support, but this name, image, and likeness space is an opportunity for people to support differently than they've supported before and to have that relationship with a student athlete. That is why people give. That is why people come to our games. They are supporting our student athletes, and name, image, and likeness provides that opportunity. And I can't say enough about our team and how they're continuing to move forward that narrative.
That's wonderful. So we look across Boise State, and there is no shortage of amazing student athletes. We've got our football team, great men's and women's basketball, volleyball, golf, all of these great sports. So when it comes down to it, if a business wanted to work with, say, a lacrosse team member or someone in the kind of new esports, does the athlete have to be on a certain team to be eligible to participate in the NIL program?
No. And in fact, one of the things I think when we talk about NIL across the industry is that a lacrosse athlete at Boise State, which is a club sport, or an esports athlete, would have always been eligible for NIL deals. And that's a lot of why this got pushed the way it is because it was very specific to NCAA varsity sports, and the student athletes were not eligible to receive compensation in exchange for their notoriety and marketability. It was always an option for the general student population, which would include those participating in club sports. So now it's open to all students on campus, which is really the proponents, the Ed O'Bannons of the world, and everybody who was pushing that back at the very beginning. That's what they were trying to achieve. And so that's now been unlocked for everybody on campus. So it is open. Now, our department focuses specifically on varsity athletics, but we also are partners across campus, and we have plenty of connections to be able to open doors and begin conversations if there's a fit elsewhere. We want what's best for the institution.
That's great. Jeremiah, I imagine in its own way, even though there are athletic directors all over the country, it's probably a rather small club, and I assume you're talking to them regularly. Does there seem to be a consensus among the ADs around NIL and what it means for the future of NIL, and also what it means for the industry of student athletics and what you think the future is going to look like?
So that's an interesting question. There are a lot of opinions on what the future looks like. What we do know is name, image, and likeness is here to stay, and the opportunities for our student athletes that exist today, they could look very different tomorrow in terms of opening up more doors for how they connect within the community and can monetize their name, image, and likeness. When you look at college athletics as a whole, we know the value that we bring to communities and institutions. We know what we represent, and our our mentality is to continue to drive forward, that we are not going to let others define these expectations. We are going to be innovative, and we're going to get creative in how we navigate this space. And ultimately that will lead to bigger and better opportunities down the road. But it is here to stay. And I think a lot of ADs maybe are struggling to a certain extent because it is so non-traditional in how we were brought up in this industry. But my hope is that it's a competitive advantage for us and me specifically, because I am new to the chair. And so I do not have blinders to whatever the past was. I am now getting to have conversations and use my creativity to think differently about an industry that needed to change. And my hope is we can do it in a very positive way.
Well, Jeremiah, thank you so much. Mike, thank you so much. I know we're so fortunate to have you here with us today, and we're so fortunate to have you here at Boise State University. Anything else you'd like to add as we close up?
I can't say enough about our community and our partnerships, such as the Chamber, and it's amazing to see the momentum that's building and how people are continuing to step up to support not just athletics but this institution. It's powerful. And I'm really excited for this program and where we're headed and what's next.
Absolutely. And of course, with our great sponsors, we've got Alaska Airlines as our presenting sponsor, and also with Albertsons and ESI. They help make things like this possible and get great information out to our members. Mike, if our businesses want to get in touch with you, where do they reach you?
Yep, so 2 ways. I mentioned the first is broncosports.com/NIL.
Okay.
The other way, more directly, is to email nil@boisestate.edu.
Okay.
And they can always reach out to me individually. My contact information's on our website.
Wonderful.
But the email address, nil@boisestate.edu, we have a group of people that have access to that. We can get back to somebody immediately and figure out what the right fit is for them. And the biggest message is just that this is changing constantly, and we're trying to make sure that it's changing in a positive way, and that no idea is a bad idea right now. If there's any way to utilize and leverage what our student athletes bring to the table for a local business, we will figure it out.
Yeah, innovation is alive and well here at Boise State, as we see both in your program and across the university. Thank you all for joining us. Again, you can reach Mike at nil@boisestate.edu. And thank you both again for joining us.
Thank you. Go Broncos.